Hello there.
General Kenobi.
That was so cringy, bro. Anyway, what is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another reaction video. Today we're checking out the Chimeran War from Resistance, from the game Resistance. We checked out one video called the Chimera, and this was also requested with that video, so I thought I'd do it. It's only 10 minutes long. This video is from a channel we've seen a lot of, the Templin Institute. Great channel for like short lore, you know. They've done good Warhammer videos. I've seen they've done some Star Wars and some Killzone, some Resistance. Not really familiar with anything except for Warhammer, but you know, I'm interested to learn. But yeah, man, we found out last video that the Chimera are invading alien race that infect people like a virus and turn them into slaves of their hive mind, similar to Tyranids from Warhammer or the Mind Flayer from Stranger Things. So yeah, I'm very interested to learn more about the war. So yeah, let's get into this video. Also, if you are new, be sure to subscribe to the channel. You can obviously suggest me any videos you want in the comments below. I do have a long list to watch, but I mean, I'll get to it eventually. Also, you can join my Discord if you're very interested in continuing the conversation there. But without further ado, we're gonna get into this. Rogel Dawn. Don't know why I said that.
By the mid-1930s, it had become obvious to the nations of Europe that something was deeply wrong within Russia. While it had successfully defeated the Bolshevik Revolution more than a decade earlier, the Russian Empire had seemingly never recovered, and the entire nation had retreated into a self-imposed isolation, driven, it was said, by the increasing paranoia of the Tsar. With strange broadcasts and reports intercepted from deep within the country, it was suspected that this isolation might have been intended to conceal a general mobilization, and the United European Defense, or UED, was established in response. Slowly but surely, a clearer picture began to come together of what was truly happening inside Russia. Entire villages and then towns had been abandoned, and strange creatures, believed to have been the result of a Russian experiment gone wrong, were spotted across the country. When war finally came...
That's true. Everyone would expect that. Like, if you see weird creatures, you'd expect someone to try some weird odd genetic mutation, especially if it's a country like Russia back in this time. So yeah, that's crazy. So it started in Russia and it just started to spread through Europe, right? And when it got to the US, they finally repelled it, right?
The full scale of the UED's miscalculations were made clear.
It's always the case.
The creatures that would become known as the Chimera were not born of any experiment, or even Earth itself, and they came not to conquer, but to exterminate.
Aliens!
The Chimeran War would determine not the fate of nations, but the survival of mankind itself. For much of their early existence, the Chimera had been confined to Russia, in part because the nation's Arctic climate perfectly suited their physiology, but also because of the Red Curtain, an enormous...
So their bodies require colder temperatures, obviously, because in the last video they said they tried cooling the planet. So obviously they have prone to overheating because, I don't know, they just are. Don't know why they need cold, but there you go. I just thought something that's very similar to Stranger Things. If anyone's seen it, spoiler alert. When the hive mind controls someone in there, the heat causes the stuff inside that possesses them to come out, right? So they need cold too. Maybe it's just a thing.
Enormous fortifications stretching from the Baltic Sea in the north to the Black Sea in the south. Despite their preparations, when the Chimera overcame the final remnants of the Russian Imperial Army and breached the wall in December 1949, the United European Defense fell apart almost immediately.
Wow.
The Chimera's numerical and technological superiority were their most obvious advantages over the UED, but the speed with which they advanced across Europe was unprecedented. Any static lines of defense were overrun or circumvented entirely. By January 1950, the Baltic states, Poland, and much of the Balkans were simply gone.
Oof.
The rest of Europe was stretched to the limits in trying to accommodate the enormous...
What kind of waste of space are these guys, bro? that they folded so quickly. Maybe it's just the shock of the weapons and maybe the sheer numbers. I don't know.
Enormous number of refugees who had fled westwards, trying to stay ahead of the Chimera's advance.
Keep going, dude.
Startlingly, almost no refugees escaped from territories that had already fallen to the Chimera. Only 2,000 survivors managed to escape from Warsaw when it fell, a city of roughly 2 million people. This was later realized to be the result of the Chimeran's conversion process, which transformed captured men and women into horrific creatures or biomechanical machines. Even German panzer divisions were helpless when facing the increasingly advanced mechanized weapons utilized by the Chimera. In a desperate attempt to prevent the Chimera from reaching the refugee camps established on the banks of the Rhine, the German army adopted a complete scorched earth policy, destroying anything that might be of value to the Chimera.
The old Vlad the Impaler. That's what he done when he was retreating into Romania, or Wallachia, or whatever it was called back then, and the Ottomans were coming. He burnt and scorched the land so they couldn't live off the land. So, yeah, kind of smart, but these guys don't know if they need to eat or what, but, you know.
Unfortunately, they remained ignorant to the fact the Chimera had no need for human industry and resources, apart from human bodies themselves. When the futility of the struggle was finally realized, plans were made to evacuate Germany and the rest of Europe, though many of these efforts would be swept up by the enemy, condemning millions to the horrific conversion process utilized by the Chimera. In only 2 months, most of Europe had been defeated utterly, with the last line of defense centered on the mountains of northern Italy. With the knowledge of what was happening in the rest of the continent, hundreds of
what are the mountains in northern Italy called? Alps? Am I correct? Or are those the Switzerland? Do they hit Italy? They're Switzerland or are they Switzerland and France?
Italian soldiers committed suicide rather than becoming part of what they called the Deathless Plague.
Fair
When
enough.
Genoa was finally taken, Italian resistance ended completely. For 9 months, hope remained that the United Kingdom might remain free of the Chimera, and perhaps become a staging ground for some great counterattack.
Come on, brothers.
In October 1950, however, the Chimera crossed the Channel, having secretly tunneled beneath it.
How?
The British Army fared no better than their counterparts on the continent. The primary British headquarters in London was flooded by Chimeran creatures, and its 14,000-man garrison was trapped and left to die. With this, the tattered remnants of the British military retreated from the cities, intending to wage a guerrilla campaign until reinforcements from the United States could arrive. In July 1951, after months of negotiations, a joint British-American strike on London, named Operation Morningstar, successfully destroyed an enormous Chimeran tower, skyscraper-sized structures raised in every territory conquered by the Chimera. The London Tower in particular seemed to be at the center of some type of Chimeran network, and with its destruction, every Chimeran creature across the British Isles died en masse. Among the most important intelligence gained during the operation was the knowledge that the Chimera...
Was that like a hive sensor or something that they all powered? That powered the whole UK army or something, like the Chimeran army? Because that's a bit mad. Like, they destroyed it and then they all died. I mean, that's the way with hive minds. You have to destroy the hive mind to win. So,
Chimeran towers seem to have been excavated rather than constructed, and could be the key to their defeat. With the defeat of the Chimera in Britain, the British military was contacted by the Maquis, a resistance organization gathered from the remnants of the UED. They intended to replicate the success of Operation Morningstar and destroy a Chimeran network centered in Paris. A method of resisting the Chimera's conversion process was discovered during the campaign, and together with the destruction of the Paris hub tower, delivered to the Chimera the largest decisive defeat since the start of the war. The Maquis and their British allies pushed onward into Russia, hoping to find some secret that might reverse their fortune.
Alright.
Ultimately,
We gotta say all the way. You went all the way through their territory. But then I realised, instead of fighting them back, you probably don't have the numbers. It's probably best to go to where it started, because that's probably where the initial thing is maybe the first point of contact, you know, the most important part.
The respite gained here was short-lived.
Respite.
The Chimera had developed new conversion methods, and worse yet, began constructing fleets of battleships intended to reach the yet unconquered nations across the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. In August 1951, the Chimera invaded Canada and the United States, testing local resistance with small-scale yet highly damaging strikes. President Noah Grace, believing a military victory to be impossible, enacted Project Omega, a top-secret contingency plan that proposed negotiating a truce with the Chimera, sacrificing the rest of the planet if the United States were left in peace.
Wow.
The plan hinged on a Chimeran entity known...
Wow. Really, bro? You're gonna sell us out like that? What a prick. Nah. Save our country, fuck the rest. And you think these aliens are just gonna take that, yeah? They want your fucking planet, donut. Oh, God. I mean, maybe he had no other choice. At least fight to the death, bro. Like, what the hell? Fight with some honor. What is this?
And despite its capture, only creature yet encountered capable of high-level communication. Despite its capture, Daedalus was only amused by the proposal, and President Grace was later executed for his betrayal of mankind.
Thank you. I would have chopped his head off. Or firing squad, or electric chair, whatever method. I would have done it. Say no more. Now this dude, he can go fuck himself too. What the fuck are you, bro?
Prepared to make a final stand in the heart of the country, the United States constructed the Liberty Defense Perimeter, a safe zone in the nation's interior surrounded by heavily armed defense towers. Between 1952 and 1953, the Chimera overcame their natural inability to survive in higher temperatures and swept through Africa and Asia. As in Europe, they unearthed enormous towers and herded the surviving population into vast conversion centers. The Royal Navy managed to evacuate roughly 170,000 civilians, with the rest left to fend for themselves. Additional attacks occurred in South America and Australia, and every city with a population over 100,000 was targeted for conversion. In May 1953, the final campaign of the war began when the enormous Chimeran warships constructed across the conquered territories of the world arrived on both coasts of the United States. Resistance to the invasion lasted only 8 days before the Liberty Defense Perimeter was breached, and the 80 million people trapped within it were killed. In one last desperate gambit, remnants of the American military attempted to destroy the Chimeran fleet which had gathered over the Chicxulub crater in Mexico. The detonation of an atomic bomb annihilated many of the Armada's warships, and Daedalus himself was killed in the attack. But the explosion had the unintended
fucking squid incarnate, bro. Fucking ugly bastard.
Effect of opening a direct rift to the Chimera's homeworld. By 1957, 90% of the human population had been killed or converted, and any semblance of organized military resistance was over, and with it, the Chimeran War. With additional soldiers for their army no longer needed, the conversion camps were dismantled, and any survivors were simply exterminated by the Chimera whenever found. Mankind was reduced to a few scattered communities. If any hope remained in victory, it would be found in one of these last, isolated pockets of humanity.
Well, we know that they won the war and closed the wormhole from last video. But yeah, that's the end of the Chimeran War. Very interesting stuff. Like I said, not very familiar with Resistance. But yeah, 97%. That's mad. That is actually crazy, dude. Crazy. Like, what? I don't know what the human population is. Well, that's reduced to basically maybe a few million people, so that's crazy. But anyway, thank you all for watching this video, man. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. And yeah, join our Discord, and I'll see you all next time.